What?
Somebody wants to know where they can find any females around here. If you're looking for females, going to a Linux podcast is probably not the place to be.
I mean, I got some nice, man boobs. That's close enough. I mean, I don't know. I mean, ow. That probably shook the entire camera.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just hit the desk. Oh.
And I got that
funny.
on video too.
Ow. Like everything it was like I was an earthquake. I was like all up in this desk, and this desk was just like, no, you go back to California now. Go back to California. And I was like, ow. Oh, that hurt.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Linux Tech and Gaming Show. This is episode 34. I think we're actually not new anymore. Maybe.
Newish.
Yeah,
Noobish.
something like that.
I think noobish is more appropriate.
Yeah, that's
I'm
about
new.
right.
I'm new. I can't say much. I'm new, so
Your beard
maybe it
ain't.
is new. Nah, it's beautiful. People love my beard.
Yes, to legitimize the show, we went out and got us an authentic neckbeard.
Hey, you know what? Window couldn't take everything. You couldn't just have. Window was taking a little too much of the territory, so you had to go out and grab yourself another one. But I don't know. You did trap me in the woods, and it did happen. Okay. Anyway,
we won't talk about that. We won't talk about that. Anyway,
my Yeti family is missing me.
Well, this show's already ruined. Anyway, check us out at linuxtechandgaming.com. You can chat with us. You can watch our stream there. Don't forget to join our Steam group, Linux Tech and Gaming on Steam. And if you want to tweet at us, you can see our Twitter handles right below each one of us. Also, if you're hardcore, go join us on irc.freenode.net channel Linux Tech and Gaming.
Yes.
Anyway, first segment for today is my game pick of the week, and that is Guns of Icarus. Yeah, the way. Guns of Icarus is a steampunk co-op dirigible game. And in case you aren't aware, a dirigible is a flying ship with a balloon.
A big ass boat with balloons. All you need to
something
know.
like that. And
I thought the Germans tried that once. Anyway, so
they may have. I don't think they were the first. The Hindenburg was a dirigible. But there are 3 classes in this game. You can play as a pilot, a gunner, or a mechanic. And you play on a team. You have to have at least one person per ship. The rest can be filled with AI, but you can have up to 4 people per ship. And you have to keep the guns and other equipment on the ship in good repair and steer the ship while trying to shoot down other ships that are shooting at you. And I think in a match you can get up to 24 people. I think that's it, because you can have 3 ships on a team and 2 teams, 4 people on a ship. So yeah, that's 24 in a match.
And it also has an element of building up your skill sets and unlocking other things like colors for your person and things for your ships. I can't remember exactly all the things that you can unlock, but you can upgrade ships and unlock, I think, new ships.
Yes.
I don't think we ever made it that far though.
No, we're still kind of poking around in the noob levels on this game, but
I'm not even doing that. I've never played the game. It looks interesting. It's
you need
always
to.
looked interesting, but
Put it on your wish list, man. Put it on your wish list.
Yeah, good game. We played
Yes.
with Ubu and Max and all the guys. Good stuff. Definitely recommend this game for co-oping if you want to do some co-op type stuff, like sort of like Borderlands type co-op, where you have roles and things to do on the same team. I don't know if I would say it like Borderlands, but anyways, it's like 4 people. I think you can have per ship, right?
Can have what?
It's you can have 4 people on your ship. Total.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So you got a gunner, you got a pilot, and you got you can have 1 pilot and any combination of gunners and mechanics or something like that. Definitely. How much is it now?
Right now it is $9.99, unless you want the collector's edition, which comes with a costume pack and a soundtrack. That's $15. But
Or you can buy
this?
4 for $20.
Yes,
Perfect.
that's a good deal.
It's perfect.
Yes. So are we gonna do this round table or?
Why not?
I mean, I've got my opinions on it, but that's just me.
Okay.
That's why I said why not. I knew he had something to say about it.
Well, I mean, with all my dealings with having to deal with BIOSes and trying to deal with UEFI, oh my gosh.
So for this week's roundtable, we're gonna have it's about open source BIOS or UEFI and why it should be important to have one. I guess we'll let System start. Why is it important to have?
Well, I mean, pretty much anything that's open source is important. Basically, if you have a company that's setting and deciding that this is what we want to do, and we don't want anybody else to get into it, and we don't want other people to have access, and that's fine to understand in like a corporate environment, that's pretty good. But when it comes to actually using hardware and open hardware, and you want to be able to have it set up for people to be able to use daily, I actually want to be able to get in there and adjust things that, like, say I want a motherboard. I want to be able to go into the motherboard, and maybe I want a BIOS that has the ability to overclock on the same motherboard as I want to give to somebody that doesn't have the ability to overclock. And if I have an open source BIOS, then that means I have the ability to just go in and just choose, just choose which one that I want to deploy. For like an OEM person, you could just deploy it for those people. And so if you're doing it for a corporate environment, somebody could do that. But if somebody buys the computer and they know, oh, wait, there's this open source BIOS over here, and I can load this BIOS on here, and I can do whatever I want with the system, I think it just gives the ability. On top of that, if there's ever a problem or an issue, it really gets fixed a lot quicker. At least in the open source community, we usually can dink around enough, fix things, whether they're done correctly or not. That's relevant or irrelevant, doesn't matter. But I don't know, that's just my opinion on it. Like, I think there should be, especially with all these projects that want to be able to get rid of the proprietary blobs that are just stuck, and that's one of them. One of the things that would be nice if it was all open.
I can tell you the opposite end of that stick and why you don't want a closed source UEFI. If you look at starting with around Windows 8, 8.1, and now 10, where they're starting to, because they're catering to the Microsoft market and they're starting to lock out other, it doesn't even matter who they're locking out. They're just locking out the BIOS so that you can't put stuff on it that you want to put on it, a la Linux and whatever else that you can think of in the world. That's a problem, because I'm under the firm belief if you buy hardware, it's your hardware. As long as you're not committing illegal activities with it, I don't see why anybody cares what you do with it, personally.
Well, that's the issue right there, is they want to make everything that they don't sell it to do illegal. And I actually have another example of why open source UEFI would be important. I'm sure everybody here has probably at least heard of Superfish. If you haven't, this was a little piece of malware that was pre-installed on Lenovo laptops up until, I want to say, last year when Lenovo got called out on it. Of course, that was only on Windows, but then more recently we had a news story come out where they've actually got something in the UEFI that triggers a Windows system call and tells Windows, hey, here's this executable code in memory, go run this, and it goes and downloads and installs all the stuff. So you can go and wipe your hard drive completely blank, reinstall Windows from a non-OEM CD, like one of the box CDs you'd buy in a store, and you'd have the Lenovo spyware on your computer right out of the gate. Now, of course, that has no effect on Linux, because the system call that the UEFI is trying to tell Windows doesn't work in Linux. But who knows? Maybe they're going to do something that affects Linux.
I think it's all about trust also. If you're not hiding anything, and why are we locking stuff up, making it encrypted so regular people can't see it, all this stuff? I don't understand why it needs to be illegal. What is there, besides them not wanting you to put Linux, or I don't think it's Linux in general. I just think they don't want you modifying it, whatever purposes. And I think that that extends also to the mobile market that we talked about last week, where they were wanting to make it illegal for you to modify the bootloaders for Android or any mobile device for that matter that has a radio in it.
Well,
go ahead.
Say that's not a okay. So there is a protocol. It has to do more with the Wi-Fi stuff than it really has to do with the BIOS. We're talking about two separate ways that things work. So under the FCC rules, certain sets of wireless are accessible and open. They're designed specifically with the intent that you can do anything you want with them. The difference is that with a BIOS was engineered and designed for this specific purpose to interpret the calls so that the system can go from a shifted state so that it can load an OS. And because that's basically, in the old days, you put in a floppy disk, you booted up the machine, and it read the floppy disk, and then it did its stuff. Nowadays, you have hard drives, and they have to call states, and they have to negotiate, and they have to decide things, and it has to do things before it even gets into the system. And so that's why you've got the UEFI and the different things like that. It's different than the wireless stuff. Wireless stuff, you can do some really nasty stuff if you have the ability to break it. So there is a complete difference. This open sourcing the BIOS, that's amazing in the fact that it would be the ability to see what the BIOS is doing and all of the capabilities that you can do with that. And I believe that it would increase innovation that way too. But when it comes to wireless items and different things of that nature, you have to be very careful with that, because that's interference in regulatory things, not so much interference in, well, it's my hardware, I can do what I want with it. Well, your hardware can interfere with somebody else's hardware unintentionally if you mess something up with Wi-Fi or you mess something up with a cellular signal. You could break things. Whereas with a BIOS, oh well, you break your own machine. Not really much you can do by breaking somebody else's. But with that, there's two different things. But anyway, that's my perspective.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a good point.
And just so, in case anybody is interested in an open source UEFI, there is one called Tiano Core, and it doesn't have, there's not a lot here yet, but you can get on here and have a look around. It is tianocore.org, Tiano, and you can look around. And hey, if you install it, send us a tweet. We want to see it.
Yes, and if it blows up, don't say we told you.
Yes.
We take no responsibility for your for your actions or the actions of or the information on the internet.
Yes, especially if things catch fire. Send us
Well,
an
if
No,
catch
Instagram.
fire's good.
Take a picture and tweet that at us.
Yes.
But we're still not taking responsibility of it.
What is that disclaimer that they always put on TV shows and stuff like that? That this is too dangerous for home or something like that. That's basically what we're saying here. We may do it. That doesn't mean you should do it. Just because we can doesn't mean you. But if you want to, show us that you did it, and it will be awesome. But don't blame us if you break your computer.
Kids, do not try this at home. You will burn
Exactly.
something down. Okay, so let's get into the hardware news.
All right. And our first topic for hardware, we have AMD says don't throw your rubber banded stacks of cash at them. So as you guys know, the Fury R9 Fury from AMD was released not too long ago in the wild. Now take these benchmarks with a grain of salt. They are what they are. They exist where they exist. But anyways, the Fury is barely better than GTX 950. Now the 950 is somebody correct me if I'm wrong, $150 card.
It doesn't look barely better. It looks like it's getting slaughtered in BioShock Infinite.
I'm trying to be nice here.
Like, it's got 60-some% of the performance of a 950.
Yeah, I mean, it tries to make a comeback in some other games a little bit. I don't even, like, that doesn't even matter. You shouldn't even be comparing an R9 Fury to a 950.
Okay, Dirt Showdown with anti-aliasing cranked way up. It just slightly edges ahead.
Yes, no, keep in mind the Fury is a $650 card and the 950 is a $150 card. So if you're a Linux user and gamer,
You only use NVIDIA.
current, yes. Now I think, well, unless you're pro level like this guy over here.
Yes.
I have my
I believe-
rebuttal to this article.
We knew you would. We'll get to that. No, okay. So the Fury sells for $550 or so. That doesn't matter. It's a lot of money, and
Well,
I believe that
remember that there is a Fury and a Fury X, and they are different cards.
Oh, okay. And according to here, they use the Catalyst 15.7 drivers. There is now a Catalyst 15.9 driver that just came out. I don't know how big of a difference that's going to make here, but just for your information.
But it did get 291 frames on Xenotic.
Yeah,
At
potatoes
4K.
do too.
Of course, the 950 is pushing 338 frames per second at 4K.
I think I played Xenotic with a legit potato before, and it played great.
That's terrible.
That's an old school pre-Steam Linux game.
Yes.
But
Okay.
let's hear this rebuttal, sister.
All right, so so I have hardware that's like over 5 years old that can still handle its own against pretty much anything else. Even though it's 5 years. So the way I look at it this way, okay, yeah, the R9 Fury is not going. It doesn't look great. But the funny thing I found about AMD is as they fine-tune things, as they gradually improve on the platform that they've built, they usually have the ability to have a very long scope of play when it comes to hardware. So their hardware, they haven't changed their base chips, like their CPUs, like the socket that you use is pretty much the same socket you've used for 5 years. If you bought a motherboard 5 years ago, you can still use the same motherboard. The funnier part is I have a graphics card that it's from the 7 series. Right now, I have the ability to still play on par, play games, do everything I want to be able to do with it. The graphics performance is great. I still have more RAM on it than most people currently get on current NVIDIA chips. So, yeah, okay, the R9 Fury is not doing great, but it's AMD. You expect. Most of the time, cards are going to be. It's kind of weird, though, that the Fury is like $500 and something. That is kind of weird to me, because it's not a sandwich card. But when it comes to AMD though, like the only thing I had really an issue with this article is the fact that he blatantly says something at the end of the article that basically part of the reason for blatant articles like this is to increase public pressure for change. I think if you really want change, vote with your wallet. Really tell them financially. Which I think we've already got that point right now. AMD is bleeding
I was gonna say.
right now.
AMD
is already bleeding. But
I was gonna say they've already
time,
voted with their wallet.
Okay, but let's go back to another thing. Intel released Skylake, right? Was Skylake really that much of an improvement over the previous platform that they released?
Absolutely really not.
I mean, what's the deal though? But yet at the same time, Skylake is horrible under Linux. At least everybody that I've talked to that's used Skylake or tried to use Skylake in Linux, they've really got horrible performance with it. They actually get better performance on some of their older chips.
Are we talking about CPU performance or iGPU performance?
Just in general, performance in general. Like even using the same NVIDIA graphics card that they already had previously, the performance is degraded. Like they just don't get the same kind of performance they were getting on their other system. I actually had somebody that literally took the graphics card out of their new system and put it back in their old system, running Linux, and he was running Mint, and he put his graphics card back in the other machine, and he just continued to use it because his Skylake, he put Windows on the Skylake box because it wasn't doing what he wanted, and he couldn't do what he wanted to use. And that's the thing, is that newer hardware products from AMD have the same problem a lot of the times as Intel, because again, you're competing a graphics chip manufacturer like NVIDIA. AMD basically came in, bought ATI because ATI was literally drowning. So AMD bought ATI. And now AMD is drowning along with ATI. And so we have this whole thing where AMD wanted to create its own APU. So it used the ATI division to build an APU. And they now have a really interesting APU. Intel has an APU, and so Intel has an APU, and then if you want to look at NVIDIA on their on their like Integra line, I guess technically that would be considered an APU, but it's not really an APU because they're still using what is it they're using? They're using the
I'd like to sum it up like this with AMD. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the hardware. Hardware is fine. The implementation of the hardware, the software stacking between the hardware and what you want to do, that's been the problem. And it doesn't seem like they have the resources to fix that. And the more time that they don't have the resources to fix that, the less money the more money that they lose. The more money they lose, the less that they can fix those same problems. It's a slippery slope for the last few years for AMD, at least in general. Like, remove Linux from the conversation, just in general.
Yeah,
I think everybody who's over, I don't know what, 25 will all say the same thing. We all grew up on AMD. It's not like we hate AMD. It's not working. It's not working right now.
Yeah, because I mean, there hasn't really been an AMD system currently there's no AMD hardware that just makes me want to go out and buy it to replace the AMD hardware I've got. And there's no NVIDIA hardware either that really makes me want to go out and say, I'm going to drop this. Because if I'm going to spend the money, I'm going to spend the money on the hardware. And it's going to be hardware that I'm going to use for a few years. It's not just going to be, I'm going to buy a $100 graphics card. 6 months, 8 months, a year down the road, I'm going to buy another graphics card. It's one of those situations where if I'm going to buy it, I'm going to spend a good amount of money on it. And, what would tempt me would be the higher end graphics cards. And the thing is that even the Fury X really didn't tempt me. There was nothing about it really tempted me. But I still like AMD. I still like ATI. I still like what they can do with the technology that they've created. It's just the downside to this is if you am somebody and you tell them,
we're gonna need you to get on board with 2015. There's no such thing as ATI, and now there's no such thing as AMD graphics. We're just gonna have to start calling it Radeon and get over it.
You spoiled it. We haven't got to that point yet. I was gonna get into it. Yeah, I was gonna get into it later in the thing. But anyway, yeah, I guess we can wrap this side up. I mean, that's just my thing. It's like the article made me angry, and it's just what it is. And they wrote what they wrote, and vote with your wallet.
Without getting into too much head rolling, like I said, the article is what it is because the source is what it is. I just couldn't find another source, but that's pretty much been the tempo of graphics drivers for Linux for a while now. That's just what it is.
But this next thing in the hardware thing, I was drooling over it. I was looking at it. I loved it. I can't wait. So are you going to talk about this next thing up?
Yes, this next thing. So we talk a lot about Raspberry Pi on the show because Raspberry Pi has some awesome use cases. And I think one of the problems with Raspberry Pi has been storage. So Western Digital, being Western Digital, came in, swooped in, and gave you some storage problem-solving awesomeness. Basically, they have a Pi-size Raspberry Pi storage package. That's a 2.5-inch laptop drive. That's 1 terabyte, but it comes with a micro SD that's 4 gigabytes that you can install the OS to. So no mechanical lag for your drive. That's pretty awesome stuff. And and the thing that makes this different from a regular laptop drive, because you would say, why don't I just go find a cheap laptop drive? Is that this has a US 3.0 connector instead of a SATA connector to connect to the Pi's USB port, which is kind of cool also. And it comes in at a whooping price of $80, just $80. But if you use WD Pi Drive 111 as the checkout code, you get 35% off, making it $52 for a 1 terabyte drive plus a 4 gig SD drive. Western Digital is all kinds of win right here.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal, actually.
Well, and I also like the fact that if you have an internal USB 3 header in your system, and you just want a drive that you can plug in and pull out, that you would then be able to turn around and plug it into another computer, like a laptop or something like that. But you want something that you can just boot into and boot out of, and say you have the OS already built on it. Especially in the Linux thing, where you could build it in your system, so you can build everything up on the drive, and then just plug it directly into the Pi. And which is really, really cool, because then you've got the OS that you've loaded on the little 4 gig thing, and then you just plug in and you can just go. Because a lot of the people I have talked to, and this is, since you guys brought this up to my attention, I talked to a couple of my friends that do development, and they're always like, man, I gotta load it on this USB device, right? I gotta plug it into my computer, then I have to negotiate with the device. Well, with the way that this is set up, it detects it as a drive, and then you can just load it on there. Get everything set up. You can partition it, get it all ready to go, just unplug it, and then plug it into the Pi, and it's ready to go. And there's, and now you've got extended drive space for your Pi, and you could store a database on it. You can do all kinds of cool stuff, and then you can take it, put it on an actual full system, plug it in, set it up, and it's an actual drive that you can mount somewhere. And it's not like a case drive that's in a plastic container that you have to plug in and be like, okay, well, where am I going to put this when I connect it to the Pi and I've deployed it somewhere? You have to use the double-sided tape and stick it on there. With this, you can build it, design it, implement it, and get it ready, plug it into the Pi, put it in your little box that you've designed that your Pi is going to go in, and then mount it somewhere, and it mounts just like a standard hard drive, and you don't have to like fiddle with it, and it's all right there and ready to go, which I think is really awesome. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Another plus for this thing is that it comes with its own power source also. So if you look at it, it has a power source for the drive, and I think that it also has the power source for the Pi. So it has a little external brickish, I don't know if you want to call something this small a brick, but a brick that you can power all your things with, and it takes care of your drive power needs also. They thought of everything. Western Digital gets extra kudos for this thing. I mean, I don't know how big the Pi market is and who's actually thinking about it outside the nerd space, but it was good on them to do this.
Well, they had to have seen profit somewhere.
Oh, of course. All right. So we're gonna get into. Go ahead.
Let's get into our gaming topics.
Sweet. Well, I guess we're gonna start with Sword Coast Legends. What about it? It's a traditional Dungeons and Dragons shared storytelling style game. I don't know how many of you guys play Dungeons and Dragons or something like Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter Nights, that type of thing. And it's this is based on Forgotten Realms, which is a sub campaign of D&D. But unlike previous D&D based video games, this has a dungeon master or DM mode, which gives you the old school pen and paper style of gaming, but with an online gaming experience. So if you played any of the previous games, it was like a co-op adventure type thing that the game presented to you. This actually implements a dungeon master, which I don't think I've seen before in a regular video game. I thought that's why I put this in here, because I thought that was the most interesting note of this game. It does have an in-depth story mode written by the team who did Dragon Age Origins. So this is not some ragtag team of people who made a game. This is legitness. And it will be released on Windows, Mac, and Linux with a later release dates for Xbox One and PlayStation 4 on the 29th of September. That's this month of this year. This is definitely an interesting type of game. I'm interested in trying this.
I mean,
and as always, pre-orders are the devil's spawn, so don't pre-order anything.
No, wait.
Yeah, wait until it's out.
Yeah, definitely, especially with Linux. You need to make sure it actually works first.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it looks interesting. I don't really play Dungeons Dragons.
What kind of madness is that? Who doesn't really play ever? Never?
Well,
No,
I mean,
I don't.
I played Magic. Not like I play Magic. I mean, other than that, I Dungeons and Dragons. Well, no. I mean, I really like Munchkin, but I mean, Dungeons and Dragons itself, I never really got into it. I mean, yeah, I can create a character, I can draw it out and give it statistics. That's great. But, you know,
it's all right. It's not for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But the game looks cool. Cool, but
yeah, I'm definitely gonna have my eye on this game. I don't think I remember seeing let's check here now. The price for it is it's pretty steep. So the digital pre-order pack, but we're not telling you to pre-order, is $34.99. It has $39.99 crossed out, so I guess that's what the retail price is going to be. It's a little bit steep, but we'll see.
And next, Rocket League is coming to SteamOS.
What? Say it is not so. Everyone should probably already know what this game is. If you don't know what this game is by now, you've been hiding out on the. I don't know where you've been hiding. Like, where on the planet can you not know what Rocket League is? But basically, Rocket League is soccer with cars. There's nothing else to say about that, really. It's just soccer with cars.
You heard about this game when you were offline and had no internet, didn't you?
Yeah, pretty much. I think a carrier pigeon came and told me about it. If you pre-order a Steam hardware, which would include the Steam controller, and the Steam, what's the Steam Link? Is that what the Steam streaming box is called? You get a free copy of Portal 2 and Rocket League. So we don't tell you to pre-order, but pre-order a Steam Link or a Steam controller, I would say. Okay. You get 2 free games.
It says any Steam hardware. So if you pre-order a Steam controller by itself, you can get this game. So
right, that's what I meant.
I don't know. I might pre-order a controller. No,
right?
Hardware.
I think the game is $50, so buying the controller gets you a free $50 game.
Take a look at that.
I mean, and then I don't know who would want a Steam Link, but for those who want a Steam Link, if you're gonna buy it anyways, you might as well do this. Now, included in that buy any Steam hardware was buying Steam boxes. Now, I'm going to have to tell, my opinion, don't buy any Steam boxes. not just yet. We need to see what's going on with this.
Rocket League by itself is $19.99.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a terrible price. Me being a cheapskate, I'm probably going to wait until it is on sale, and I'm definitely going to wait until it has a SteamOS icon, as I don't trust things without the icon. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll get a Steam controller just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. And speaking of Steam machines and Steam things and hardware related things that are Steam, you can pre-order all these good things at GameStop, which I thought was interesting. So GameStop will be carrying the hardware for Steam. It's on their page. You got the Steam controller for $49.99. The Steam Link is $49.99. They actually have some pre-mades with some generic images. Looks like all Alienware stuff. Once again, I'm gonna say stay away from that stuff until we see what it really is.
The Steam Link is not too big of a risk there. That's nice and cheap. Controller, I've been vocal in the past about this controller because I'm really disappointed in it compared to the design that we had. Back when they first announced, we're going to do SteamOS and we're going to have the Steam machines, and then here's the controller, and it looks like fucking awesome. And then it just
the Gaben controller? The Gaben nipple controller? Is that the one you're referring to?
The one with the touchscreen display. It had a fucking monitor in the controller. What happened to that? Yeah, but...
Simpletons happen to that.
Yes, exactly.
There's too many buttons. There's a display on my controller. I don't know what to do. I touch it? Oh wait, I just killed myself because I was paying attention more to my controller than the screen.
Remember Dreamcast kind of did that, sort of.
Wait, didn't Nintendo do that with that new Wii U thing that they did? It's a freaking controller with a screen. I mean, but it's awesome, and it's Nintendo, and they did it. Why can't we do it? Why can't we have that? I want that.
Well, technically we can. You can hook up a Wii U to a PC, but that's a different topic. But even in its current iteration, the Steam controller is still, I don't know, acceptable for $50.
Yeah, but what is unacceptable is the hardware specs that they're talking about for the Steam machines.
Oh boy.
Yeah, the total bollocks They're total bullets. Like, first of all, oh my gosh, no.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I mean,
they're Alienware, so keep that in mind.
yes,
so they're Dell products, basically.
basically.
I
yes.
wouldn't even associate with them. I would say Dell is somewhat like affordable and cost effective. Alienware is completely not affordable and not cost effective.
But Dell owns Alienware.
I get that part.
Right. They own them, and so you would think, oh, Dell owns it. But of course, we already have the fiascos with the Dell. But I mean, they did do the laptops, and I'm not going to give them bad for that. But this is just uncalled for. An i3, really? Really? I understand it's Linux. I understand it's Linux under the hood. But an i3?
Keep in mind that
it's a dual core for the $450 version. I mean,
keep in mind that these are the Alienware ones, and if you go to Steam site, they actually have alternative ones. Not that the prices are much better, but there are.
But aren't these the
prices.
options that they're selling at GameStop?
Yeah, the physical ones at GameStop only.
Exactly,
yes.
right? So this is the one that's being sold along with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. This is what's competing with that at GameStop. This right here. I'm sorry.
I would say arguably, like a PlayStation 4 is still $400, right?
Yes, but if you want a game console, like a SteamOS game console system that's actually worth anything compared to the price of this, I'm sorry, no, the hardware that they're selling for the $450 version.
Yeah, I mean it's a pre-made, but what I'm saying is that I would say arguably this is spec-wise still better than a PlayStation or Xbox.
Maybe, no, it's not. It's
We
a
don't
dual core
actually know that.
i3.
But I'm gonna partially defend this. For your $450
4
investment,
gigs! 4 gigs! Seriously, 4 gigs of RAM? Are you kidding me? You're freaking kidding me, right?
I would say that's from a general consumer perspective. I would say it is what it is because the price is what it is. It's a pre-made. 4 gigs for a dedicated game machine should be okay. I mean, you're not going to be opening Chrome in it, Atomic.
Really? See, that's the problem. That's the problem. It's SteamOS. You should be able to open Chrome in it. Okay, that's the sad fact. You're stating the.
Hopefully, you're using the. If you're going to set this in front of your TV and you have a computer, hopefully you're using the whatever built-in browser that that's in big picture mode. I don't know what it is exactly.
Chrome.
So, Valve is using Chrome?
Yes, the Valve is using the Chrome engine. They're using the engine, just like Atom.
Just
like the Atom system. They're
even
using
that's fine. Even that's fine because hopefully you're not going to have like 10 tabs open. That's where Chrome starts acting weird is when you start opening up a bunch of Flash and scripted pages and then it says nope.
But I'm still 4 gigs of RAM. I understand it's DDR3. It's 4 gigs of RAM. They could have done 8. 8. That's like $10. All they had to do was do $10. Okay? They're already gimping out the processor. They could have at least given it 8 gigs of RAM. 8 gigs. That's the base model. That should be a requirement. Base model by Steam. 8 gigs of RAM. You go to Best Buy. When you buy a machine at Best Buy, what is the most standard RAM now that comes in computers that you go and buy at Best Buy?
6 gigs.
Okay, see, that's more than 4.
But it also means you need to throw a chip away if you upgrade to 8. Because those things only have 2 slots.
I understand that, but that's not the point. The point being is, they still could have done 8. They still could have done 8.
All right, so people who know what they're doing, go make your own because we've already decided that was the thing, anyways. People who don't know what they're doing, they're gonna go waste their money on whatever they waste their money on. I mean, like, let's just be honest. The Xbox and the PlayStation spec-wise are a waste of money. You're buying it for the games, not for the hardware. And I think that's what they're trying to go for here. And you know too much, so you're thinking about it too hard.
But I can't recommend it. See, that's the problem. I can't
First,
recommend it.
I can't recommend the Xbox either. But 3 billion people are gonna go buy one.
Well, an Xbox is a completely different can of worms. Completely different can of worms. I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't buy it. But for those people that have to get their Halo and they have to get their COD, Xbox is king. I mean, you're not going to play Call of Duty on a PlayStation 4. Just saying. An Xbox is where you're going to get it. So, I don't know. It makes me cry inside, but I can see where they're going with it. But still, 4 gigs of freaking RAM.
The video makes me cry inside.
I know it does. It absolutely does. It jitters, and I'm moving around too much, and my camera is just like, "What did you do to me?"
But
All right.
I'm sorry.
So
I'm gonna defend the hardware a little bit.
Okay, defend it.
For your $450 investment, you're getting an i3 4130T. Yes, it's a dual core, but we don't need tons of cores yet. We probably won't need tons of cores for several more years. And
it's
it's a little slow. It's 2.9 gigahertz, but I have played games on a 2.1 gigahertz laptop, and the CPU is not the limiting factor. It was usually the GPU. So I would say that's kind of a non-issue, and probably you're not going to get much better than that anyway, unless you go with AMD, and then if it's going to be on SteamOS proper, like the Linux version of SteamOS, then you're going to want an Intel processor at the current time because most games run better on Intel. But then it's got an NVIDIA GeForce GTX GPU with 2 gigabytes GDDR5.
I guess the 950.
If you're lucky.
Lower. Yeah, or something lower.
Yeah. You get an honest-to-goodness authentic GeForce GTX. I hear those get all the FPS.
It can't be lower because I don't think there's anything GTX that's lower than 950.
750.
Well, that's still good though. That's nothing to sneeze at.
You get a low-end 750 that's clocked low. It's kind of disappointing. But yeah, I'm not gonna defend the 4 gigs of RAM. It does kind of need 8.
For $450, you're getting something in a small form factor that supposedly, allegedly plays games and a controller. And I'm hoping you're getting like all the wires and the power bit.
Yes.
So, I mean, for what it is, it's not terrible. Like the price point and everything the total package that you can just take home, plug in, and just go. That's what this is targeted for. It's not targeted for people who can actually add gigs and do math with money. It's not for you. Definitely not for you. I mean, it's a pre-made. Pre-made has never been for that type of person. So yeah.
Well, okay. So there's some things in nitpicky. Okay, I'm just nitpicky about the specific thing. The processor and the RAM are the only two issues. I mean, the 500 gig drive. I mean, it's not bad. It isn't. At least they're sending it with a 500 gig drive. Some of the PlayStations original PlayStations didn't come with a 500 gig drive. I think they had like a 320 gig. So what you get like on a PlayStation 3 was the top end that you could get. So I mean, at least they're doing that. I mean, I'm not gonna complain. I'm hoping it's not a laptop drive. That would suck.
It's probably going to be.
Yeah. See, and if you were gonna do that, you'd do better off doing like a 256 gig SSD.
Oh, but I think you got told.
It's a 7200 RPM drive, so it's probably a laptop drive.
Who got told what?
You did. The Jacob 99 posted a link. PS4 scores Call of Duty Black Ops 3 exclusivity deal at E3 2015.
I didn't say you couldn't play it on there. I said it would be retarded. There's a difference.
Well,
and the only console, quote unquote, that I own in my house is a Sony console. I do want to build one of these at some point. I may build a Steam box. I haven't decided yet. Or I might just be lazy and find one that isn't like this and go buy it. Just to support Steam. That would be the only reason I would buy it, is to support Steam. And say, hey, here's my hard-earned money. I'm voting with my wallet. Please don't let me down. Crap like this lets me down. Because I wouldn't want to buy this, even if I want to support Steam.
All right.
Anyway, so let's move on before my rant has taken over and I've exploded all over the place. Something about Armor 3.
Yes, Arma 3 was released for Linux. Some, I guess, they kind of threw it at us and like, here you guys have fun and bye. And it's $60. I don't think they're really supporting the game much, and I think it is also a virtual programming port.
Oh.
Yes, that means Eon wrapped goodness. It means it's not a native port. It means they took some kind of wine magic and threw it at Linux. And on top of that, I don't have the link, but I do remember them saying something like, yeah, so we're just going to let you guys have this and see what happens, and we're not really supporting it. But on another note, on the good note, that was the negative side. If you're looking at this benchmark here, it's actually performing doing good, really good.
Yeah, and the current one is showing it's actually ahead of the Windows version. But
Right.
it looks like there's some stuff not being done on the Linux side.
Yeah, that's pretty typical. I don't know if let me check, but I don't know if
there's
Arma
no fires.
No fires.
There's
That's pretty significant.
No fires and no smoke. So, oh, that's why. It's noticeably lower texture resolution. So yeah, some trickery is going on there.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's a Eon wrapped port. If you buy it, you know what you're getting into. You've been warned. But it does play because there is a huge subculture or cult of Arma 3 players out there and people who like to play that military sim style stuff. So there you go. Arma 3 is on Linux. Congratulations. But
Well,
it's like
I like. Sorry.
I was gonna say, just like Atomic noted in the show notes, it's been 2 years. Why the hell is this game $60 though? I don't me no understanding that.
No, I would think it. 25 maybe because it's a new release. A new Linux release or whatever. But if they're going to be completely hands off about it, they're basically say, here you guys go. We're not really going to support it, but we're going to charge you $60 for it. I'm just like, no, but it looks really cool. And I was looking at the videos and I was kind of looking around at it. I was poking around. I mean, maybe I might get it if it drops in price at some point. Just because I like Battlefield games and I like games of that nature, and I like Tom Clancy games and stuff like that. I haven't really had a good one, and there really hasn't been a good a Rainbow Six game in forever. So, and the fact that I can play Rainbow Six on Linux in Wine, and I really hate doing that, but using Wine to play video games. But the fact that I could do it, I mean, it's not bad. So, if they made a Rainbow Six game, a good one, and they actually made it for Linux, I would buy it. I would give them all my munsies, right? I would give them every bit of my money. They would just take it all. Here's my money. Give me the game. And I would be completely fine with it. But again, this game is kind of in that style, and I like it, but I'm not going to spend $60 for it.
All right, so that's Arma Linux. Be warned, if you go buy it, you may get shafted with the big one. So, in some completely, I don't even know where I found this at. I don't even know why it's stuck in my mind. It's kind of ridiculous. But for noobs, maybe, I guess, there is an Ubuntu-focused, gaming-focused distribution. It goes by Ultimate Edition, and it's at version 4.6. What it reminds me of is, if you remember back in the XP era, there was Ultimate Editions of XP. Like they were pre-tweaked for gaming and just whatnot. It had services turned off and all that goodness. So I guess this is kind of what this is. It's based on Ubuntu 15.04. It comes with XBMC. For those who don't know, XBMC is like a Windows Media Center, so to say. Already tossed in there for you, so you can watch TV and all that good stuff. It has a few pre-installed Linux games and appears to be running on.
That might explain the 4 gigabyte ISO.
Yes, it's it's probably the largest Linux ISO you can find. I don't think I've ever seen
It's XBMC is called Kodi now.
Yeah, you're right. If you're looking for information on it, it is called Kodi, Kodi. But I think I just copied the information from them, so they need to update their stuff. Yeah, so this is a gaming focused distribution. I would say run it in a VM and see what it does, because I don't know anything about this.
Well, I already spun it up. It's okay. It does run Kodi natively. It's, I don't know. It literally is. I really felt like it's SteamOS package style. I mean, it kind of had that feel of SteamOS big picture mode, especially with Kodi loading up, and it's pretty cool in the fact that there were a lot of games that were already preloaded. There were a lot of things that were already ready to go. It worked okay, but it did give me a lot of errors on the box that I threw it on. I don't know why, but it would always pop up an error message, basically in mate, which is what I chose, which is the fallback that I chose to use. There were some issues, maybe some things that could be tweaked and improved and better, but overall, for what it is, and for a person that just wants to be able to get in, play their games, do the things, well tweaked for it. Would not recommend it as something to use as your daily driver. I would use it like as a Linux person. I would use it as a dual boot, maybe something as a secondary, because I just want to get in. I got Steam loaded. It's ready to go. If I just want something that's a fallback to play my games, that's what I would use it for. And maybe something if I was using like a media center box, like a Nook. If I had a Nook or something in the living room, and I just wanted to stream to it, it's a good option for that too. It loaded really quick. There weren't really any issues with it, other than the problems I was dealing with Mate. And that may have just been Mate itself, or Mate, or whatever you want to pronounce it. I'm totally not calling it correctly. But anyway, it may have just been that. And that was the issues I dealt with. But it's really good, and I liked it. But that's what I have to give a take on that.
Because we're here to inform our viewers with the Linux gaming infos, can we all agree that this is probably a better option than actually telling people to go install SteamOS at this point?
Yes, I would definitely say this is a better option, especially if you have Windows installed still. All right? Because SteamOS will eat your Windows install. This will not. It asks you if you want to install it next to it. It gives you those options. It is based off of 15.04. It's got the 15.04 bugs, but it's still better than XP. So
SteamOS said a drive for a drive. Windows eats your Linux partitions, so Steam was like, you know what? We got you. We're going to eat your partitions back. I'm not mad at that.
No, yeah, except for it wiped everything, including drives that didn't actually have anything to do with Windows. So I've had a bad experience.
All right.
I still would load it.
I can see that being in it.
Well, I've also installed Arch with no internet, so we'll leave that alone.
Oh, you are a masochist.
Well, no, Gentoo with no internet is a masochist. And I've done that too. So yeah, I guess I am a Linux masochist. Okay, so are we gonna talk about the sandbox?
No, because for some reason I didn't complete that. So it's gone.
Are we going to rapid fire now?
Yes, we are. It's time for rapid fire topics. We'll do it this way. We'll read them in order, each taking turns, starting with Atomic.
Okay. So, a minor annoyance in a little-known project, Profile Sync Daemon, was identified and corrected inside of a day. The author of this project transitioned it from being a system service to a user service, and in so doing, moved the location of the config file from Etsy into a directory under the user's home. And I'm a little bit of a don't junk your home folder up kind of person. And I commented on a little thread about that. And within, I want to say 20 hours or so, there was already a new version up with that going into the standard XDG config directory. So hashtag power of Linux.
Damn. All right, System, tell us about Stanley.
Well,
His parables.
all right. So this will be one of the only games that I've ever like loaded up Windows just so I could check it out. Like literally this game, like so many people have talked about this game, and I'm so excited. It is actually on Linux now, and so, well, sort of, but it's got its Steam Play logo now. But I am excited because the game is so interesting to play. It's not a really long game, but it's an interesting game if you're like one of those people. If all of the extra puzzles, the extended puzzles in Portal annoy you, then wandering around in a maze of a game like Stanley's Parable is interesting. But I just like, I don't know, I like the game. It's interesting. And I liked playing it. And it's on Linux now.
Yes.
So excited.
The game is short. I mean, you could probably run through it in an hour or two, but it has a lot of replayability because there's a lot of forks that you can take to get different endings to this story. So, yeah, you could probably put in a good 10, 15, 20 hours replaying all the different routes through this game.
Yep.
So for the next article, we should probably change our name to Linux Tech and Raspberry Pis, because we talk about a lot of Raspberry Pi on here.
I like pie.
If you want to ever use your Raspberry Pi as like a room set streaming media box for each room, so like for example, you put a Pi in your living room, a Pi in your bedroom, a Pi in your kid's room, a Pi in the kitchen, and then have it centralized. Like it could just be your desktop area where you keep your music, stream music to it, but you need a solution so you can get high quality sound. Two companies, one called IQ Audio IO and the other one called Hi-Fi Berry, offer what are these things called? DACs. Yes, they're called Pi DACs. And the page does not want to load, of course. But anyways, these are basically miniature DACs that will plug into the connector on the Pi, and they're only about 30-ish bucks or so. Well, actually it's in pounds. It says 30 pounds, so it's not expensive. And this will get you a high quality sound out of the Raspberry Pi. So for 60, 70 bucks, you can have you a really nice media center or media, I don't know, it's not a center, a media extension piece, and have a house that is fully kitted out with music everywhere. Plus, you could probably do other things like this, like add, say, intercoms or something, but that's other stuff. So all you have to do is sprinkle on some Linux, add some speakers, and bam, there you go.
Okay, so next we have Richard Stallman speaks with true Neckbeard authority. So
yeah,
what
so
is this?
System actually read all of it all the way through. I read parts of it because, boring.
God, it has a real scroll bar.
Yes. It's basically the latest ramblings of the software zealot Richard Stallman. He did a Q&A on Slashdot and we'll have the link in the show notes, which we'll post on the site, hopefully. But maybe System can give us a quick insight what he read.
Other than I fell asleep 3 times while reading it. I don't know. I mean, basically, it's just RMS talking about security, talking about freedom, talking about all the things that he talks about. As a Neckbeard, I can't say that I'm ashamed that I started to fall asleep, but it is good stuff, sort of, I guess, if you want to call it that. But if you want to give it a read, or you need something to read while you're trying to go to sleep, it is something I would recommend. It's a good... You could read it to your children if you ever have a child that just doesn't want to go to sleep. Print it out, stand by their bed, and just start reading it. They'll go to sleep, or they'll scream. Either way, it gets the job done. Anyway, that's all the take I've got on that.
Parenting Tips by LTG. You heard it here first, people.
Yes. So now we've got Google and the next GNOME release will have Google Drive support.
Natively.
I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing.
Well, first you have to remember it's just like a lot of things in GNOME, it's an extension. So if you don't like it, you don't have to load it at all. It doesn't come preloaded.
I don't know. Maybe. Well, from what I was reading, it's supposed to be something native. It's supposed to be something. From what I read, it's supposed to be integrated, and you'll have to remove it because it comes with it.
You have to opt into the. I don't know how often you use GNOME or Unity, but they both have this social networking center type of deal where you have to actually go in and be like, yeah, so I want to be on Facebook, this, Google. And when you do all that stuff from the social network center, it sets up your desktop to get all the social network stuff.
Well,
including this. And this is how that's implemented.
Right, and I understand that feature, but there was a time in Ubuntu's history when they had an incident with Amazon, and I'm very wary when integration like this happens in the desktop. Like something like this happens in the desktop, because we've already had an experience with Chrome unintentionally downloading, at least that's what Google said, unintentionally downloading a binary blob. Even though this is integrated, that's great, and you have to opt into it, and that's fine, I understand that, but I'm very wary about it, but I don't run GNOME. I don't run it as my daily driver. Right. I drive a Toyota, so that's my daily driver. But I run XFCE because I like the mobility of it. But it's cool. I mean, for us to be able. Okay, so I'm gonna also play devil's advocate on the opposite side. I'm gonna play against myself here. I'm gonna say this really quick. Basically, it's awesome that they're doing an integration for this, because this is a competition to Dropbox. This is something that a normal user, they want to have the ability to use Google Drive, or they want to be able to have the Cloud Drive, or they want to have something integrated. And this is just another option for them. And I like that. I like that idea. And I do like it that it will be able to bring in more people, which is great, because there's an easier transition for people. And if they have Gmail and all this other stuff, and they're already using it on their phone, and they're already doing this and they're doing that, that's great. And if it's integrated tightly with, at least with the implementation, it's tightly integrated, and it works, and it doesn't accidentally delete all of their files, or erase everything like Steam has done in the past. But if it works, that's great, and I like it. But at the same time, a security conscious side of me goes, I don't know if I want that integration. I want to be able to click an external button and enable it without opting into it. Like, I don't want it integrated already and then I just have to turn it on. Like, I want something that says, okay, I want this, I can click on it, and then it comes in and installs it for me. Like, I don't want it to be something that just, it accidentally someone writes a code or a script or something and it gets enabled. Does that make sense? Like, I want it something that has to be installed. Like, if I enable it, I want it to have to be installed, or I have to give it permission to load itself. I don't want the code to be just there, ready to go, and then if it accidentally gets turned on, then it happens. I don't want the Microsoft Windows 10 thing where security isn't priority, and it just gives your data away, and then you have to opt into not having your data away. This is like a slippery slope. But again, next thing, we can move on because I've overtalked, unless you guys have something else to say.
AMD spins off the Radeon graphics.
Fine.
Yes. They hired a new guy by the name of I'm gonna completely butcher the guy's name. Raya Kaduri, seems Indianish. I don't know. So yeah, they remade the graphics division, I guess you can say, and called it Radeon. Why they don't call it ATI, I don't know. It would almost seem like they would get a lot of old goodwill back if they called it ATI, but that's a whole different story. Anyway, it seems to be more public. At the time I found this, it seemed to be more of a public split, meaning that it was just something done for the public view. But now with all the rumors going around with AMD getting cash infusion, getting bought out, and this and that, it might be an actual physical separate ARM at some point. But who knows?
Well, it'll still be a division. It's not going to be a separate ARM per se, but it is going to be a division. And so, yes, okay, so there's rumors floating around still. Osiris and I went back and forth the other night. I didn't have any grounded information, 100% grounded information, this is true, but supposedly rumor mill states that 20% of AMD is going to be sold off to, was it Silver Lake? I think that's what we were talking about. Silver Lake might be buying 20% of AMD to infuse cash into them. Now, Silver Lake is the company that helped Dell. Like, they're the ones that helped Dell take control of its company and kind of become a basically help Dell. Well, if they do the same thing with AMD, and AMD's got the division ready to go with ATI, that means that if AMD really has to absolutely do it, they can liquidate ATI to somebody else. So that basically means if they've spun it off into a division, that means they can sell the division off. And they don't have to, but if it's still tightly integrated into AMD, then they can't divide up they can't divide it up. It's so tightly integrated that if AMD becomes insolvent, basically if they go below their money limit, they go below like 600 million or whatever, they can become insolvent, which means they literally, not only can they'd have to file for bankruptcy, they'd have to do a bunch of extra stuff, and if ATI is a division, that means they can just sell ATI off to somebody, like Intel, or sell them off to IBM, or who knows. I mean, but it means that they could liquidate it without having to liquidate a portion of the company itself of AMD. They're just liquidating the Radeon division. So that's kind of where I can see their logic. And it looks, if that's what they're doing, it looks as though they're preparing for financial infusion. And this is just step one. I mean, this is what happened to Motorola. This is what happened to Microsoft before they liquidated their phone division.
A legit analysis. I agree with most everything of that. For you lazy Arch users, I don't know if there's such a thing, but if there is, Integros, a Arch distribution, has a software center for you now. And it's pretty good looking. I want to even go as far as to say that they need to call Canonical, kill the atrocity that is Ubuntu Software Center, and put this in there. That's how good it looks.
It's pretty. It's pretty.
It can't be any worse. It can't be any worse than the Ubuntu Software Center.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. It's pretty, but it's not portable. It's too highly integrated. It's not going to be able to, because it's programmed in Poodle. It cannot be ported to Unity. Unity would never be able to use it because of what it's programmed in, what it's designed in. It would just be too highly conflicted. Now, when Snappy Core really becomes mainline in the Ubuntu universe, I'm going to call this, then something like this could be imported because it's using a web UI. Basically, user interface is all web-based. And it's nice, and it's great that it's built on Python, and that's awesome. But, again, it's not portable. Because if you don't have the exact same Python distribution, now it's great. It is Integros, which is based off of... basically, it's... Yeah. No. Yes, but no. Which is, it's based off of Arch, but because it's a rolling, that's what I was meaning to go there, because it's a rolling distribution, they can on the fly update things very quickly. But in the article, it basically states, and they state very clearly, that it is in beta. Or not even beta, it's like in an alpha, it's not even ready. It's not even ready for mainstream use yet, even in Integros, or even in Arch. It's not ready. It's still broken, it's still not working right, there's still issues, but it's so pretty, and I will give them that. Integros is very good about making things pretty, and they made Arch usable. So can't really.
You heard it here first. If you're on Ubuntu and you wanted to have a replacement that was actually cool, go sit down, go find a couch, and take a long seat.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
So you thought that you owned your computer? You thought that you went out to the local computer store, bought a computer, and then you owned it? Joke's on you. Microsoft's making all kinds of jokes. They're according to the news, is Windows 10. No, Microsoft even admitted this. Windows 10 is invading people's computers, and the recorded incidents are climbing. They have a limited download amount set by if you have a limited download amount set by your ISP. Microsoft says there are no fucks given. They will download shit and not care. Limited disk space. No more fucks given. It's just all the fucks they're all out of fucks this year. Apparently, I think they spent them last year. But anyways, Microsoft is helping by pre-caching, quote unquote, by pre-caching Windows 10 onto your system drive. And they don't care if you asked for it or not. If you said I opted out of Windows 10, they're like, but you really didn't mean that, now did you? No cares. It's a 6 gig download to pre-cache Windows 10. And it will take up your hard drive space. If anybody's ever ran out of system drive space on Windows, your computer will die. Horrible death. And some, albeit very few people, are saying Windows 10 pre-cached files are being found in Active Directory, which is even worse. That means in enterprise and corporate world, they're caching onto a quote-unquote secured network. that is terrible. And if you don't know what Active Directory is, it's basically a user manager for like large level enterprise and corporate like networks. It controls the users. We'll just call it that. That's the worst possible scenario or situation that requires finite control over your network. So Windows is not caring. You're getting Windows 10, whether you like it or not, kicking and screaming. You're getting it. It's on your computer, even if you don't think it's on your computer. GG Windows, game over.
Yes. And I've got to say that this tablet, the Windows tablet, it came with 8.1. It bricked itself trying to update Windows 8.1. Though it did unbrick itself, to be fair. It bricked itself again when it updated to Windows 10, which I did tell it to do because YOLO. And unbrick itself again. So, you know, just a little.
You only
bricking
live once. A little bit of bricking never killed nobody.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't so critical that I couldn't just return to the store if it did actually brick totally. So, I think that's about all we got for the show. Don't forget to join our Steam group, Linux Tech and Gaming. Check out our website. We have articles down there. And yeah, go follow us on the social media twatters. We all twat at the over there.
And don't forget the actual Linux Tech and Gaming Twitter account, which is Linux_TAG, I believe. Let me
Yes.
double check it. Yes, that's what it is.
I should probably put that in there. But all we got for the show. So we'll see you next week. Hopefully next week.
Peace. Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll let me back again if I didn't rant too much.
All right, y'all.